Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. I can no longer watch old episodes of Star Trek and not think that the movie club is coming up after the show ends.
That's a bummer because it doesn't start. Because you got to wait till Fridays for the El Kent Movie Club.
You do. Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star. Hello and happy Friday.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Tomorrow is, we've declared it National Gas Mowing Opening Day. Have you already mowed your yard?
No, I have not.
Well, if you'd like to join the rest of us, we're all mowing tomorrow for our first mow.
11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Big noon kickoff. Big noon mow off.
Well, I will probably actually be out worse on the old hands and knees trimming up all the leftover foliage from last year. That is what I have been instructed to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to Headley. Shout out to Brandon. Apparently, our head bobs were like even Steven today,
were they?
better than ever
Nice.
before,
Good.
which is hilarious because
I wasn't even looking.
Yeah, we were having a conversation off the air. I didn't realize that the camera had been on as Nick brought up Elton John he was just wrong about something. It was very funny.
And he claims he's of music.
Yeah, I know. And then John started singing,
Can you feel
I mean,
the nerve
At
tonight?
least it was Elton John adjacent.
tonight.
I was wrong.
I got to
but-
get back in the habit of making the opens again. I have not done that.
It's been a busy time.
It has, but now the schedule is kind of
Busy.
As the
equalized.
schedule
We're good to go.
allows.
Somebody should. I want to see a GIF of our head bobs. I just want to see that.
We could probably make that happen.
Yeah, we can make it happen. Well, this week's movie is No Hard Feelings.
Nice.
Yes,
And this was
My pick.
Yours.
it was
The
Your
most
pick.
important voice of all.
mine.
So tell us about it.
No Hard Feelings is about a woman who's very down on her luck. Her car is towed, which is inconvenient because she's mainly an Uber driver and also works at a bar. And she needs a car now because her car's gone. She's looking for cars and she's like, hey, here's an ad on Craigslist. Date our 19-year-old of age. He was 19, right? Or was he
Yes.
18?
Yes.
Date our of age child and build up his confidence for college. And you can just have this car. And she does just that. And hijinks happen. Then there's a naked fight on the beach.
And there's a naked fight
Spoiler
on the
alert,
beach.
Nick. Spoiler alert.
But this is an R-rated comedy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In the same vein of many other famous R-rated comedies. And Jennifer Lawrence actually got some accolades for this, and not just for the naked fight scene.
No,
Nice.
She was such a good actress, and even her some of like her facial movements and just the nonverbal acting, she crushed it in this movie.
I like Jennifer Lawrence.
I do too.
Yeah, she was nominated for a Best Actress in a Motion Picture Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes this week.
No
musical.
way, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
What did you think of it, Kent?
Well, where do we want to start? The first thing that I thought of is imagine if this movie was a 32-year-old guy trying to get with a 19-year-old woman. The explosion that would have happened over that is so there's that. That's
It's very smart to have it an older woman with a younger man.
well smart, but what isn't that some sort of
Double standard.
societal
Oh, boo. I don't care about
it
that.
It is
I
kind of
mean,
gross.
if
It's
if
pretty
you're
gross.
gonna if one thing is bad, the other should be bad as well.
Oh,
Period.
absolutely.
Yes.
How many times, Kent, do we see actual real life stories of teachers
and students.
But he's of age. He's 19.
I understand that.
I mean, that was a joke in the movie,
but it's just the idea of if it's a male teacher with a female
people
student,
give high fives.
hideous. But if it's the other way around, it's like, oh man, dude, it's
High
just
five.
that societal double standard.
It's actually funny. Sorry, Ken.
Go ahead.
I would say when I saw the previews for this movie, my first thought was, what the hell is this? This looks gross. Like, this doesn't look like a cool movie. It's weird that this is a thing that's happening. But then as time went on, I heard people say it's genuinely a good movie, like story-wise and comedy-wise, which is what kind of convinced me to want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm going to be honest, the naked beach scene, I heard about that, and that sounded
And
hilarious.
then you wanted to watch the naked beach?
I wanted to watch the naked beach scene.
Secondly, I think it shows, Jennifer Lawrence is a gifted comedic actress, but you've not really gotten a chance to see her do that much because she started out, when she broke through with that Winter's Bone movie where she was the teenage girl defending the family in the woods. And then before very long, she ends up being Katniss in the Hunger Games.
Yep.
And then she did the David O. Russell movies where there's some humor to them, but they're David O. Russell movies, right? The American Hustle and
Silver Linings Playbook,
for which she won an Oscar, right?
Yep.
So after she had a couple movies that didn't do well, right? Box office, critically, anything, including Red Sparrow, in which she also was
naked. We talked about this with Michael Severe earlier.
How appropriate.
Yeah, he was in the building. He was like, oh yeah, she also got naked in Red Sparrow.
Yes. So she literally took time off. And when she came back, she's done an indie film, kind of indie drama, much not super hyped Hollywood movie.
She was in Don't Look Up. Remember that?
Yep.
Well, she did. Don't Look Up was first, then that indie type film, and now this movie, which she produced or co-produced. Mm-hmm. So she wanted to do this comedy for good reason. That's the second thought that I have. And third, this thing isn't as edgy as it kind of wants to be, right? It's really pretty mild for your R-rated comedy. And
I agree.
The last 40 minutes, maybe, how horrifyingly, how much spoilage do we want to do here?
Well, given that this is in the similar vein as many movies before, Love Don't Cost a Thing, those kind of guy dates the girl and makes her popular. Like, I feel like it's okay. I feel like if you've seen those movies, you kind of know where it's going to go.
You know where this is going to go. It was not surprising to me how it ended. No.
And everything that happens after that party, when she utters, I have another comment about that, but after everything that happens after that, it really becomes almost, I wouldn't say it's a Hallmark movie, but it heads into that sentimental and loses any of the sort of R-rated comedy edge.
I agree.
That.
The back end was weirdly heartfelt.
Yes,
that's the exact point.
And listen, and some of these other R-rated comedies, I think of more contemporary ones like American Pie, for example.
Right.
At the very end, yeah, there is some sentiment there, but it never loses the edge. It still has, and of course, when you have a character like Stifler, there's always going to be that kind of stuff. But you're right, Kent. It basically changed from the party scene with all of the Dartmouth, kids.
Well, I would say and certainly the phone call inside of the car when he is in the car. That's where everything just
right. That's the next scene after that, right? That's what changes everything.
Exactly. So, and so you're right. It almost is an entirely different movie after that.
And
point.
Reflecting on this movie now after last night, I think that this movie was kind of an attempt to recapture those mid to early 2000s comedies, but in a 2024 kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
because those raunchy comedies were very raunchy, and I don't think you can make those types of movies anymore just in 2024, but I think they tried to find a happy medium of trying
Which is
to
unfortunate because
harken back to that.
the raunchy comedies are hilarious, but that's just me.
And the final thing, I think it did, whether intentionally or not, do a little generational jabbing, right? You have the helicopter parent Generation X people, and you have the Zoomers who won't get off their phone, right? Who are all, they're when she goes through the party and they all have their phones, and then she goes through those bedrooms and they're all sitting in the bedroom on the
their
phone.
phone. Well, and
right?
I thought one of the funnier jokes was when she's there and there are the two guys, and she basically just calls them both gay, and they're like, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" And then they all pull out their phones and they start recording her. I thought that was a nice wink to the audience.
And and the best line in the movie is when she's looking in those doors. That it's a line that we will not be repeating here. Doesn't anybody?
Yeah. Doesn't anybody anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there was a little bit of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was good for what it was. I mean, I certainly enjoyed it, but I do wish it would have been a little more edgy.
So, like, what do you mean by that?
Well, basically, it's what Kent said. The movie changed over the last. And listen, you can still have.
So you're saying like less heart, not edgier, but just less. You didn't want it to get so sappy for the last.
You
40
wanted
minutes.
the edginess to last longer, be more
Yes.
dispersed instead of so front loaded.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Because it was very front loaded with that, and then it almost changed, and it almost felt like the characters changed.
Well, yeah, and like these types of movies, again, the ones where it's like a dare, like the one I always think of, Ken, I'm trying to remember which one it was, like the title, but basically like it's like a dare where the popular guy dates the ugly girl. Which one of the 90s movies is that where that happens? Was that 10 Things I Hate About You? I don't even know which one it was. But basically, there's always going to be the turn where the character realizes that it was all a ruse. And so I was wondering how they were going to handle that with the 19-year-old boy, how he is going to learn and what that is going to be. And so we actually paused it an hour in to do something, to take Banks out. And I'm realizing in that moment, oh my gosh, there's going to be 40 minutes of them having to deal with the fallout, which was like, that seems like a lot of time. And I think it was a lot of time.
Yeah.
It was a little too much time to have to deal with.
Yeah,
the
it's
fallout.
almost like we needed, either they needed to get to that part of the story later.
Yes.
Or maybe cut some of the stuff out at the end.
Justin says She's All That. That's the movie that I was referencing. Thank you, Justin. Yeah.
Well, there was also the one, what was the one with Jack Black and Gwyneth Paltrow? Where he sees her as this hot woman and she's actually
Shallow Hell.
Shallow Hell.
Yeah.
There was also kind of a Princess Diaries trope too. That was just a trope.
Yeah. And they made fun of it in Not Another Teen Movie as well. So
the other thing that I think or at least I forgot to mention, the kid is pretty good, right?
Yeah, I thought so too.
He's a Broadway actor. His name is not immediately jumping into my head. And that's how he was able to pull off the Man-Eater, playing and singing Man-Eater in the restaurant.
Andrew Garth Feldman.
Yeah.
So he's actually singing that because he's a Broadway actor. He was in like that Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway.
Yes, he was.
And so he had a nice presence as that kid. I thought he was good and she was really good. And I think that's what allowed the movie to work as well as it did. Right.
Well, the other thing, Kent, you mentioned about the wink and the nod to generational. It was good to have Matthew Broderick there.
He was very funny.
Because Matthew Broderick, you could have seen Matthew Broderick in this exact type of movie 40 years ago, right? When he was the teen star. And Now he's playing the over-the-top dork dad,
Mhm.
the overprotective dad. And so when I saw him on screen for the first time, and they were having fun with his name, Laird.
Oh, and that whole scene, I thought that the physical comedy of that, where she rollerblades up the hill and she's already tired, and then she sees the driveway, and that's going to be a long trip up. And then they're like, "Yeah, come on up here," and she's walking up the stairs with the rollerblades. I thought that was pretty funny too.
Part of me was hoping they'd stay on that scene a little longer.
Yeah,
just kind of
keep talking to each other.
Just show her silently trying to walk up the stairs.
Yeah, but I'm sitting here at the same time going, okay, why don't you sit at the base of the steps and put your shoes on and then walk up the stairs?
Well, when she first gets up, later on, after they're having the conversation and she gets up to walk, I actually thought she was still going to have the rollerblades on.
And then I got re-triggered by saying, okay, you had shoes in your backpack. Why didn't you just put your shoes on and then walk up the stairs? So I know I'm nitpicking something.
Yeah, this isn't The Godfather.
That says a lot about her character.
That's what I was going to say. Like,
she is
obviously she has a lot going on in this movie. But yeah, she is certainly not as smart as she thinks that she is, or that she wants to be. I thought that Jennifer Lawrence played her very well. She's funny. She's quick. She has very quick wit about her. Mm-hmm. I think that she plays comedy very well.
Her Hot Ones interview is really good. If you haven't seen that, they came out around the time they were trying to promote this movie.
So the other sort of overall kind of thought that I had was, if you look, there are almost zero of the R-rated comedies made anymore, and there are in a lot of ways there's almost zero comedies from big studios that are aimed at a little bit older audience than the teenage 15 to 25 age group, and this one is one of them, I think. And it turned out to be a hit. Not a hit in the sense of it did $100 bazillion at the box office.
It wasn't The Hangover.
Yeah, it did very well for a post-COVID release at the box office, but it was a smash when it went on to Netflix. I mean, it's still in their most popular movies queue, but when it opened, I read somewhere it did 1 billion streams in its first week.
Kent,
that's because the answer to the question is yes, she does.
She does. Yeah. I think, Kent, I think that there is something to be said for, like, when I was growing up, I went to the movie theater and I saw a variety of movies. I saw like a Batman, and I saw other action movies, and I saw dramas, but I also saw comedies. And this came out, and I feel like this is a movie for someone like me, mid-30s, likes Jennifer Lawrence. And my thought when it came out was, I'll wait for it to come out on streaming, whatever. And so I think there is still something to be said for whatever reason we don't like seeing comedies in the theater anymore. Whereas like Dune 2 came out, and I was like, I need to see Dune 2 because I want to see it on the big screen. We don't do that with comedies anymore.
Which is unfortunate, because as we talked a couple of weeks ago when we did The Hangover, there are those movies. It's a better overall viewing experience
when everyone's laughing.
When you're in a communal situation and everybody is laughing.
Yep.
That's what made The Hangover. That's what made There's Something About Mary.
I still say it. Dodgeball was the funniest movie experience that I ever had because it was a packed theater and people were laughing the entire time.
But it seems like, Kent, this is fallen victim again to the new way that movies are made and distributed.
And it's not just comedies. It's your serious dramas are not, they don't do a huge box office, right? But they do well when they go on streaming. That was entirely predicted, let's put it this way, by Steven Spielberg and I believe it was George Lucas, but I know it was Spielberg for sure. When Lincoln came out, that movie about Abraham Lincoln that Daniel Day-Jones won the Oscar for.
Not The Vampire Hunter.
Like No, which would be like 2012, I believe, somewhere in there. They had a media thing that I watched on the whatever the service was, which was kind of big and new at that time, as opposed to everything's on Zoom today. But anyway, they predicted that theatrical releases in the future, and this was really before streaming, would be the big quote event movies, which include something like Dune, but also the Star Wars and the, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
That
yes.
level movie. The other things that would be in theaters would be horror movies aimed at that opening night audience of 25 and under, and the occasional comedy aimed at that audience, and that everything else would go to what at that time was the pay-per-view or video on demand or whatever you call it. And now it goes to streaming. They predicted that 10 years before, and the reason they did was that Spielberg almost didn't get Lincoln in the theaters. He couldn't find a company that wanted to put that movie, which ended up being one of maybe the best movie of that year. Nobody wanted to put it in the theaters because that audience for the historical drama had disappeared.
Interesting.
And that is absolutely insane.
Yeah, and did you see that in theaters?
Lincoln?
Yeah.
No.
I didn't either. I saw it, but I didn't see it in theaters.
No.
We saw
So,
some of it in history.
I feel like I'm a part of the problem because that movie is a movie that I certainly wanted to see. I did see it, but I didn't see it in theaters.
No. Same here. Yeah. So, this is just the changing times. But the good news is you can see it on Netflix. It's on right now.
And I would recommend, I don't know, Nick, did you watch it with your girlfriend?
Yes.
Did you watch it solo?
Yeah.
Ken, did you watch it solo?
Yes. The first time I saw it, I did not watch it solo.
Okay.
Carla was with me.
Because I guess my question was going to be, did you find it funnier the first time than you did the second time? And I guess that can be harder with comedy because maybe some of the things that are coming. But I watched it with my wife, and I'm happy that we watched it together because it was fun to laugh together at a movie. And I wonder if that made my viewing experience maybe more enjoyable than yours or John's.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And the first time, as you say,
Funnier.
if you think about movies that you watch more than once, yeah, there might be a few comedies on that list, but you're not going to watch your sort of average comedy or slightly above average comedy more than once, generally, right?
Yeah.
At least I don't. Like something like Spinal Tap, I've probably watched 50 times, but that's a whole different kettle of fish, I think.
Sure.
Exactly. All right. So that's No Hard Feelings on Netflix.
One more thing, Ken. Have you also had trouble remembering the name of this movie?
Yes.
Why?
We have forgotten it many, many times.
I don't know why.
It's so bland. It's such a bland name. And also, I mean, I get why the title is that. I guess it makes sense with the end, kind of like the breakup, but it's like,
well, if you think about it,
Knocked Up makes sense.
Well,
right?
No Hard Feelings is
son.
Yeah, No Hard Feelings is a common phrase that we use. The Hangover, easy to remember. There's Something About Mary, easy to remember. This one, for some reason,
maybe that's why it didn't make more money, because the title sucks.
Maybe it needs a better title.
I think it needs a better title.
Date Our Kid.
I think a better title would be Does She Get Naked? ?
And then in parentheses, yes.
Yes.
And go watch it.
And this is how much I'd forgotten the title. I remembered that it was Jennifer Lawrence, right? That was the thing that I remembered.
Ken, that's what I did.
You Googled Jennifer
I went
Lawrence?
to IMDb and put in Jennifer Lawrence.
When I got on Netflix last night, I typed in Jennifer Lawrence, and it was like the 6th movie because it was like Hunger Games, Hunger Games, Hunger Games, Hunger Games. No Hard Feelings.
See, and I just Googled Jennifer Lawrence, and then that's like, oh yeah,
No Hard Feelings. Interesting.
So, yep, we all had the same experience.
Yeah,
should have renamed it.
Should have renamed it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you can catch it on Netflix next week.
My turn.
Your pick.
We are going back to Netflix. This is a movie that comes recommended by dear friend of the Grum, Mike Schaefer.
Oh,
It is also an hour and 45. in length. Dumb Money, which is about the okay, good. Yeah, Kent likes it. It's about the thing that happened a couple years ago with the NFTs or whatever. All that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like Seth Rogen is in this movie.
It's fun. I really enjoyed this movie.
All right, awesome. Came out last year.
Dumb Money.
Paul Dano, Shailene Woodley, Seth
Okay.
Rogen, America Ferrera. Trying to see if anybody. Pete Davidson.
Oh.
Just looking at the list of cast.
All right.
So there you go. Dumb Money.
Dumb Money
Dumb
next week on
Netflix.
Netflix.
And I think it is actually kind of semi based on a true story.